this guy? He made a pitch in Shark Tank India. This guy presented an augmented reality to the audience, and the investors were pretty much interested in what he had to offer for two main reasons. One, he had some explosive ideas in his head as an entrepreneur, and two, his target audience was huge. Did you know that an average venture capitalist speaks to about 1100 companies right before he narrows it down to a list of 10, which is just around 1% of his initial outreach? Quite less, right? So what method do they really use to narrow down these ideas? Well, the size of the market plays a huge role in this process, along with the idea of being creative and solving problems at large. Now, to know the size of a market, understanding the concept of TAM SAM SOM of any product or service becomes really important. What is the meaning of these three words? You may ask, right? Don't worry, this video is all about it. Let's proceed. So let's start with TAM. It is something which is related to the total addressable market. That is the demand of the product which you wish to sell. Say, for example, if you wish to start with a new fast food chain, then the entire fast food industry across the world becomes your TAM. Definitely in the initial phase, we're not going to open stores all across the globe, but then it has to be considered when we calculate TAM. When Uber made its first pitch deck in 2008, it considered the entire transportation market as their TAM, which was worth $5.7 trillion. However, they did not think of addressing the entire market right from the go. Hence, we have SAM and SOM to get in some realistic numbers, which the companies can use to address in the near future. Continuing with the example of Uber, the SAM, which is Serviceable Available Market, was calculated to be $4.2 billion. You may question that where does these numbers come from? Well, it was the total of taxi and limousine market back in USA then. Uber initially thought that this will be their market, which initially they will be able to cater to. Generally, SAM is a portion of TAM which is within your geographical reach. For product-based companies like that of Uber, which can target multiple geographies at one go, may likely have an increased SAM as time passes by because they would expand to other geographies very quickly according to the fine technology that has been developing. Out of the entire SAM of $4.2 billion, the serviceable obtainable market of Uber was estimated to be $1 billion, which was also the revenue they had planned to achieve in the next coming year. In this case, how these numbers magnificently worked out from a market size of $5.7 trillion. Uber initially thought that it would be able to obtain a market of around $1 billion. So this was one way of calculating the TAM SAM SOM. There are many more ways to it, but one of them will be now covered by us as an example of Airbnb. Let's see how these numbers worked out. The company calculated its TAM based on the number of trips booked worldwide, which came down to a number of 1.9 billion, out of which they thought that their serviceable addressable market was around 532 million, which is around 30% of the TAM. And out of this 532 million, they thought that their serviceable obtainable market is around 2%, which comes down to 10.6 million. This was a very realistic number which they had tended to achieve back then. The average fee Airbnb could make on per user basis back then was $20, which translates their SOM to $200 million. Here, rather than narrowing things down geographically, an achievable percentage was applied at each step to estimate SAM and SOM. Both of these approaches were top-down. That is, initially we started with a macro number and then narrowed it down to an addressable one. This is generally how it works out for most of the startups. Definitely, having a bigger TAM SAM SOM showcases that you are in a market where the potential is huge, but also make sure that at the same time the numbers are achievable. That's what investors generally like. This is Priyal Bhatia signing off, and I hope you took something home from this video, and the next time you calculate TAM SAM SOM for your startup, I hope you're reminded of us. If you like this video, do share and subscribe to Valuationary.